Welcome to Psychologist Talks. On today's episode, I just want to talk briefly about a trend I've been noticing over the last several years. That trend, I would call it kind of like an obsession with healing or obsession with mental health and well-being. And I'll talk a little bit first about the kind of backdrop of why I think this is going on. And then I'll speak to a little bit of differentiating between like a more traditional healthy engagement with mental health treatment and well-being versus this quote-unquote obsession around well-being and wellness, and I would argue this sort of fantasy of self-actualization. So the reason why this is coming about, if I'm at all accurate, is I think it's on the heels of destigmatization. So it's on the heels of something really productive, and this follows, to me, my philosophy about most things is to find the gray. We usually have to understand what black and white is, right? If we know what white is, but we don't know what black is, then we don't know how to create gray. Now, I'm not saying everybody is subject to this overcorrection, that everybody is sort of obsessing about well-being, but I think it's just kind of a natural part of progression. So keeping that caveat in mind, I don't think we're supposed to prevent this holistically. However, I think we should draw attention to it and be careful of this inevitable overcorrection. So what is this overcorrection? It is this idea of and differentiating it from like healthier engagement. This obsession, it's almost like a full body, whole soul cleanse ideology. Like somehow the goal of mental health and mental well-being is not flexibility and balance, which is on the healthier side, but this like purging of a full body cleanse where like all bad, quote unquote bad, will somehow be eradicated. And in doing so, how this often presents in my experience is people who are just constantly engaging in activities or types of treatment or whatever it might be. I mean, it becomes truly, it feels like an obsession. There's always something new, right? This next week, this next month, they've discovered a new influencer, a new sort of program, or a new intervention, or a new diagnosis that they might need to tackle. And I think the unfortunate irony, the kind of tragedy, the sort of Shakespearean tragedy of it all, is that it's another form of what I think drove stigma in the beginning. This idea, this latent notion of perfectionism. I have to be so perfect, I can't admit to any problems. And it's almost like the opposite is true, is like there are so many potential problems that get in the way of my perfection. I need to tackle all of them. As I alluded to earlier, I think social media is a significant culprit in this, because you'll get these like quick hits of like, these are problems and these are potential solutions that people can rapidly identify with, usually because they lack any real detail or depth. It's such a cursory overview of something, or some sort of adage that could speak to almost anybody, that while it can be empowering for some and rightfully draw attention to issues that people might not otherwise be able to name independently, I think there is also this tendency to be like, that's me, or maybe I could do that. That worked for that person, maybe it'll work for me. And so, folks will come in and they'll be like, well, clearly I've been traumatized by my childhood. And we're talking like the technical definition of trauma. It's like, well, that sounds like adversity, right? It sounds like attachment issues. Well, I've got trauma, so I got to work through trauma. And I got to have EMDR to get through this, right? Traditional talk therapy has not worked. It didn't work for this influencer. It didn't work for these people. So I need to do EMDR. It just happens to be in vogue right now. It could be anything, right? Fast forward 10 years, maybe it'll be something new that someone attaches to. I saw this diagnosis. I'm pretty sure maybe I'm on the spectrum, and maybe that's why I'm having these social difficulties, or maybe I've got a personality disorder. And maybe if I go to this retreat, or this influencer said this thing, or on this podcast, or in this news bulletin I signed up for, they said this really powerful thing that spoke to me, so maybe I'll do that. So maybe I'll optimize my schedule. So maybe I'll optimize my relationship. So maybe I'll engage in mindfulness, and I'll do somatic work. Can we do somatic work? Do you know somatic work? And it's just incessant. In the role of a provider, it's like exhausting. It's like, one, I know you're not asking this of me, but I can't know 30 different approaches and things to help you. And number two, even if that's not what you're asking of me, and you're trying to do, you're doing 5 different things at once. Are we sure? And so, I have to thread this needle, because I think a sense of energy an interest in healing and well-being and working on mental health issues is admirable and is important. But there is this threshold that its own kind of gray line for me. It's like, this feels more about like a drive of shame, or it's about like pursuing some sort of self-actualization that will never come. It is this sort of like latent, unstated belief that there is this panacea, right? Like a cure-all that's out there. And I think in this profession, it's very easy to collude with like, yeah, you do you, boo. Yeah, like you just keep going out there, you do all the things. Yeah, wellness. All right, high five. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go, 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 go. And it, I think, would be at the disservice of these people that have become kind of obsessed with some sort of false notion of a perfect healing journey. That there's some greater outcome where all these problems are eradicated and they're this better version of themselves. Now, again, they don't state that to me. It is the essence of how they communicate about this journey. And this contrast with someone who, sure, there can be a lot of urgency to the desire to get better, but it comes with this like more paced, more reserved, if not hesitant, understanding of the journey. That there is this sort of like latent flexibility to it. It's like, well, I'm going to do the best I can. And I'll try chipping away at this, but it's probably all I can manage. And this eventual sort of acceptance around like, I know the goal is not complete eradication. There is no panacea, right? There is no massive self-actualization. It's a fun fantasy to have. However, I'm willing to accept better than where I'm at today. And that's good enough. And I don't need to overwhelm myself with 5 things. Just one thing, and encountering it meaningfully, deeply, and richly is going to be enough for me. And I need to live in that and swim in that a little bit longer before I go to the next thing. That's not to say there aren't people I got to kind of drag along and be like, come on. Like motivate. Like you can take on a little bit more. You got to take a little bit more risk. But I think those folks, in that vicinity of like, hey, I'm going to take this a step at a time, tend to, at the end of the day, be more flexible around who they are and who they can become, what the healing journey looks like and what the destination looks like, than those who fall into this more obsessive camp. So, if you're a prospective or a current client listening to this, I would encourage you to think about like slowing down and what is the nature of this urgency? What is this sort of compulsion about? To kind of keep pushing yourself, if you think it applies to you, keep pushing yourself into, 3, 5, 7 different ventures. What is driving that? What is beneath that? Might it be some underlying desire for perfection that is quite unhealthy for you? If you're a provider listening, then I would encourage you to think about your caseloads and people you encounter and see if any of those fit the bill. Might it be time to not just like explore the content that they're bringing up, but telescope out and say like, I'm sensing something. Why is it that you keep kind of jumping between thing and thing to thing to thing? Like, as I say thing 1,000 times, the thing I often reflect to people is like, when are you going to be good enough? Right? Like, are you exactly where you need to be? And is that good enough? Or are you just going to keep turning over new leaves and open 7 books all at once? Like, when's it going to be good enough for now? I know you want to be over there, right? And I want to get you over there sooner than later too. But maybe we can pace things a little bit more. So again, I don't have any like research or evidence on this. It's just a thing that I've been picking up on more and more. Is that there's this huge swath of content that people encounter, particularly on the internet, and might that inadvertently, paired with destigmatization, create this sort of obsession with healing, and might we as providers need to be a little bit careful and mindful should these cases come a knocking on our doorstep. So I'm curious what other people think, if other people have encountered or seen this, and friends, loved ones within themselves, their own clients, whatever it might be. Always help. You can always welcome to comment if you want. But yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So as always, I appreciate you for listening and watching. And as always, stay curious.